Definitely just a lot of recovery. The day we got back, definitely did a lot of recovery, ice bath, just getting my body back right. And then yesterday we just watched a lot of film. I just found things that we can work on and improve on in the next game. Just continuing to push pace, matching up better. Just I don't know, playing together as a team, just playing better. I feel like there were little things that, yes, we had to work on, but it's still early. It was the second game of the season. Great road test for us, just to build our confidence and get us ready for more tough games that we have coming up. So.
Yeah, I mean, to touch on that, I think we have a great team, but we're still learning to play together and putting those pieces together. We all complement each other really well, but yeah, like I said, we're just still learning a lot. Especially our defense, like that's something we're focusing on a lot because that's how you can win games through defense. And then I think our execution, we need to do better executing our plays and making the right cuts, keeping our dribble alive, and then our transition defense, really. That's what we focus on a lot. So yeah, just putting all that together, being patient and recovering well after that game and coming together because that's our first game, like tough game, and it was fun, but we sort of got a wake-up call early, and we would rather have that now than, late in the season.
Jada, what do you take away from that fourth quarter? And maybe some of that was defense as well, but what do you take away from that? Y'all went on a 17-2 run when y'all seemed to be kind of out of it going into the fourth quarter.
Just locking in more, especially at the end of the game. We've been in that situation last year with our last game of the year, so just really honing in on the fourth quarter and making sure we're executing, making sure we're getting stops when we need stops, and just trying to keep leads when we get the lead in the fourth, so that we're not playing catch up and we have control over the fourth quarter. And I feel like we're doing a better job of that this year, but we just have to progress. It's only a second game, so just taking it one game at a time.
Question for either one of you. Obviously we got the news about Jana and she wasn't available this weekend. Then you lose Bella in the first couple of minutes of the game. How much of that adjustment do you feel in game versus just playing? Because it certainly meant both of you had to go out there and maybe play more minutes than you were going to initially.
Yeah, I think just for me, it was kind of different because usually I look over to the side and I'm like, okay, Jenna's coming to get me, but it wasn't coming this time, so I had to suck it up, just get in better shape and just be prepared, and then next man up. I think Wise came in and did a great job, played her role, played extremely well. I know after the game she was like, oh, I don't think. I was like, no, you played great. You did what you had to do, and that's what we need. We need people to step up. When one man is down, we pick them up.
What's it like for you finding your role with this team, and especially things have changed even a little bit since the first game?
Yeah, I mean, I have struggled a little bit to find, my role. We have so many talented players in our team, and I think it's just me finding how I can complement this team. And I think something I found is like my defense. So I've just been focusing on how I can impact our team defensively. And in terms of our injuries, I mean, it is hard because they are so experienced. I mean, Bella will be back, which is amazing. But Jenna brings so much to the table. And I think now we all have to bring what we're missing now. It's going to be a challenge, but she's going to be there to, help us find her missing piece.
Wise, talk a little bit about the adjustments you've had to make coming from the junior college ranks. You got a lot of accolades, but this is a whole different level. What's the biggest adjustment for you?
Definitely the pace. I think in junior college it's more relaxed. Nobody really pushes the ball like how it's pushed in transition, especially here. And I think there's so many little skills that you have to get down to be a part of this league, I guess. And it could be like something as simple as getting the ball into your post players, but you have to get it a specific way. There's so much more length. And I find that the players in junior college are much smaller, So there's, yeah, like I said, it's been hard for me, but it's been really good. I think I've been coming into practice every day, just every day is an opportunity to grow and learn. And that's the only way I can get through it with a positive mindset. So yeah, it's just building that stamina for the game and making sure I'm able to last and keep up with the pace that these girls are pushing.
One other question. Both of you in that last game had 4 personal fouls. 4 players on the team had 4 fouls. 21 fouls on the road is a lot. Is that a big issue with the coaching staff coming out of that game, or tell us about that?
I think it was just us playing through it. We're an aggressive defensive team, and I guess that game is just they didn't want us playing aggressive, so just knowing the refs and knowing what we're working with in certain games and when we can be closer to players and farther away from players. And that game, we just couldn't be that close. So just knowing that for next game, still trying to keep that aggression, but understanding that in certain times refs aren't going to allow it and seeing how much we can get away with. So
Yeah.
Wise, you talk about your kind of getting used to this league. Having Sarah here, who's been here for a minute, and Jada's had a year in Coach Collen's system, have they helped you? And how have they helped you, if they have?
My teammates, they have so much experience, and it's actually really good. Like, I've been in so many teams where I have been the leader, you know, and helping people out, but it's been so refreshing to have leaders that I can go to and look up to, and they're so patient with me. I mean, in practice, it's a whole different story. It's different to when we're playing out on that court, because I make so many mistakes in practice, but they're so encouraging, and I think they really take the time to just pull me aside and be like, hey, you're all right, like, or explaining what I need to do. And I just really appreciate that, because I like the one-on-one connection, or I really like, you know, when they pull me aside, I really just appreciate it. But yeah, and I'm foreign, so I'm like, the language barrier can sometimes be really hard, and I'm standing there confused. So yeah, I think patience is the biggest thing, and how they approach me. Like, it's constructive criticism. I think our teammates are really good at dealing with each other in terms of not yelling or, you know, using so much emotion. Everyone's pretty calm, and I love that.
Jada, was there anything specific that Oregon did to kind of keep y'all from getting the ball into Nettie as much as you'd like to?
No, not really. I just feel like we really just had to emphasize her posting up. I talked to her after that game, and I told her, hey, I looked at the game back, I looked at the stat sheet, and I saw that you didn't really have that many touches, and I will make sure that that doesn't happen again, and that I recognize that quicker, that, hey, we need to get Nettie the ball some more. So just on both ends, just her being more assertive and, like, demanding the ball from us and knowing that we will give it to her. If you got to pull me aside and be like, hey, I need the ball, I will get you the ball. And just having that communication with her and building on it for next game. So last practice, we really emphasized getting her the ball, playing inside out, and it's helped. So.
Wise, you mentioned the language barrier. I'm curious. Maybe you could educate us, give us a little 101. Are there a couple of New Zealand phrases that all of us who cover you should know, maybe as it relates to something good happening on the basketball court or just in general? Like, are there a couple that, like, we just need to know kind of going forward?
Well, I always say, like, mean as or sweet as or all those just Kiwi phrases, and I always say, like, really, or like, wow, and people just, like, my team, they just always repeat it. It's really funny. But yeah, I don't know, it's just a lot of random things where I'm standing there like, what? Like, yeah.
Well, Jada, if there's anything pop up, you can let us know too. We'll work with it.
For sure.
Okay, thank you.
The fun thing about Carl is, I'm such a like basketball nerd that when I worked for him in the mid 20 teens, whatever, however you say that, I used to buy the league pass before it was maybe, I guess, popular to do so. And I watched a lot of players I'd coached, players that were associated with players I coached, through my years in college coaching. And it was like a joke in our office space. I would always like, all right, who watched the W game last night? And then I took a job in the W. And that kind of was the first time that Carl really started watching our personal relationship, me being in the league. He started watching. He came to our training camps when I was in Atlanta. And, it kind of sparked his interest in the professional game. And I think he had opportunities to leave, to go to other jobs over the years, but it needed to be the right job at the right time for him. And I think he's excited for the new challenge. I'm sure winning doesn't get tiring, but he's sure done a lot of it. He may lose more games in his first year in the W than he's lost combined in the last 5 years, 10 years, because the reality of the league is, you're the job's open for a reason, and they'll build it, and I believe that he'll be really, really good. But it's a little bit of a full circle moment, with him, especially going to the W, but going to Atlanta. So just really excited to see, how his style translates. It won't look exactly the same. The man's a genius with the board in his hands, and so he'll figure it out. I mean, I think the reason people have questioned it sometimes is because he hasn't coached a lot of WNBA level players. But if you know the game, you figure it out pretty quickly. Kurt. Oh, yeah, Kurt. Unique move. I think, will be hard to not see him on the sideline. I think he's also, those are the best basketball minds I've been around, and I think Kurt is demanding but knows the game. So I don't know. I haven't talked to him other than texts since the decision was made. So I don't know all his reasons for moving out of the coaching side, because I'm pretty sure with all the coaching openings in the W right now, he would have landed somewhere with the success that he's had in the league. So I'm guessing it's more of a personal decision in terms of where he's at in his life and what he wants to do. But he's certainly, those two men are two of the hardest working people I've ever been around in my life. I think some of my work ethic obviously comes from my upbringing, but I've seen, elite work ethic in action. They don't take days off. They don't take possessions off. They do it very differently, but they're meticulous in their approach to their craft. And so, Kurt obviously having been a coach GM in the league his whole time in Connecticut, or most of his time in Connecticut, he knows all the agents. He knows the ins and outs of what the business side looks like. And I think as the league has grown, you've seen a shift away from GM/coach and really divided those two. So, he's gonna be prepared. That's what I know about Kurt.
How's Bella? How's her ankle, and what's her status for the next couple games here?
Yeah, still questionable. She didn't practice yesterday. We'll see, what she's able to do today. So, I get the same. I'm giving you the same feedback I get. When it says questionable, it's questionable. So, but my rule, and I don't have any problem stating this, is if you don't practice the day before the game, I'm not playing you. If you can't be ready to go, if you can't, and I'm sure saying that out loud, there'll be some point in time where that doesn't end up being the case, but that, if you aren't ready to prepare to play, then it's probably best that you don't play. And so, that's kind of our philosophy. If she can go today, you'll see her tomorrow. If she can't go today, you won't see her tomorrow. Or you'll see her, but not on the court.
It's crucially not season ending.
It's not season ending. No, she rolled her ankle. Exactly what everybody saw on the film. She rolled her ankle.
With Jana out and Bella questionable. I guess you mentioned maybe making some changes to the lineup and having to play a different style. How hard is that, and what changes do you expect?
Yeah, it's real hard. You know, you don't want to do a 180 2 weeks into the season, and I don't think we're going to have to. We're going to get Bella back eventually. We're going to get Aaliyah. So we're being down 2 is way more significant than being down 1. And when you look at the amount of minutes Bella's capable of playing, if she takes even in that game 8 minutes from Yaya and 8 minutes from Sarah, we get them to numbers that they can be effective at, and then Wise's minutes, like all of a sudden, it's very easy to keep players under 30 minutes a game and play 7 players if all you want to play is 7. If you've got one post sub, look at, if you've got one post sub to rotate into those 3 spots and you got 1 or 2 spots and one guard, you can keep everybody under 30. But I think being down 2 impacted that a lot. So we will change. Our goal is going to be to throw the ball into the post. We're not going to go another half where Aranet gets 1 shot, 1 touch. We have to do a better job, and it's a 2-way street. She's got to demand it. She's got to want it. She's got to be in more action. She's got to put herself in more actions. And some of that is just there's a difference between practice and games, and there's a difference in games and types of games. And so, that needed to be, let's just say we come back and we win that game and we have a little better feeling about ourselves right now just because we're 2-0. We were still going to evaluate that tape and say the ball's got to touch the paint more and not just off the bounce. And so, that will be a way to slow us down at times is making sure we're getting a touch in the paint.
Answered my question about, because she seemed like she just disappeared, but I didn't know if Oregon was doing anything to kind of, keep that away from her, or
some of both. I thought early, we ran a tip play, and we didn't throw a good pass in, or she'd have scored a layup on the tip play. So by the time she got to the ball, 2 people had converged on her. And then, when Bella went out, she had an easy post-up look, and Yaya threw it in the first row, kind of early in that first quarter. And I feel, because I think this, those of you who remember most first plays of the games, I ran to Queen. I didn't run them to Liz. I didn't run them to Sarah. I didn't run them to J. Lou. I ran them to Queen because I knew when I got Queen touches early, she played with an elite level of energy. And when she didn't get touches, she'd start to, kind of disappear at times. And so it makes me wonder, had that ball gone in that first quarter, does she have a different feeling because she gets an easy 2? You get a little energy from laying the ball in the basket, but I think, it comes down to, if you want to impact the game, I don't care what position you play, there's ways to impact the game. I thought Nettie actually had a really, really good defensive game, which was a little underlooked, overlooked, underappreciated. I thought her ball screen coverage was the best of all our post players. I thought she was really good one-on-one, all of her matchups. The poor girl had Deja Kelly in transition a number of times because our guards weren't getting the ball stopped. And so I thought she did an elite job of keeping her in front. But, we have to call more action for her, and that's something I've talked to our point guards about. We have actions to get the ball to our post, and we just didn't call them. And I don't know if that's the big game environment. We just kind of lost our way a little bit because every time we had a timeout and called the play, we executed at a high level. We have to do that. I need Jada to do that. I need Sarah to do that. They have to call plays to get her touches. And so without me having to say every single time, here's what we're doing. But the less we do it, the more I'll do that.
Wise gave you 15 minutes off the bench. What was your assessment of what she gave and kind of your message as she becomes what she can be for the team?
Yeah, I thought she was aggressive. I never think she's not going to play hard and that she's afraid of physicality. She was too physical. She's got to learn to play and not put her hands all over people. She has to guard her own and not try to guard everybody's player. I think the thing that she does so well is anticipate and make plays. But when you play with 4 other players and they have no idea what you're going to do, because I'm not sure you know what you're going to do, that makes it a challenge. Like being in the right spot is important. And she tends to get herself in trouble when she doesn't stay in tune to the game plan, and the game plan is not a scout-specific game plan. It is this is what we do when the ball's on one side of the floor game plan. And she tends to want to guard everybody's person, which was a perfect example on the last play of the game, which absolutely was her fault and wasn't her fault. She was guarding Deja Kelly. She knew she was guarding Deja Kelly. It was, we're trying to deny the ball in, tie it up. If we can't get a tie up because the arrow is ours, we got to foul. I mean, there's 7 seconds to go. We're down 2. We have to foul. They made a substitution. We did not do a good job breaking the huddle and getting our matchups. So we had no one on the ball. And, Nettie and Bugs were guarding the same person under the basket. So when they threw it into Deja, we needed to foul. But because Wise saw the inbounder step in and have no one guarding her, she tried to guard 2 people at once. Well, you can't guard 2 people at once and not foul the person with the ball. So, it was heat of the moment. We just have to do a better job. So that's on us as coaches, making sure they know their matchups when they go out of the huddle. But then when the ball came in, there was no answer other than foul. And so, I don't know what happened there, but ultimately, I think that's going to be the unique challenge for her. She needs to be a ball mover at the offensive end, not try to do too much. Keep us in offense, keep it moving, play in transition, hit open threes. If the ball's kicked to her, and then ultimately be an aggressive defender and use her instincts, but play positional basketball. She just wants to chase the ball a lot.
Four players with 4 fouls. Are you at all concerned about too much fouling this early in the season, or that just kind of the way the game evolved?
Yeah, I think you go back and look at a lot of those. The points of emphasis at the beginning of the year is always going to be the hot stove, putting your hands on people. I thought Deja won that matchup over and over and over again. She was allowed to throw our hands off, and then when we would put our hands back on, then they would call it. I think we could have cleaned that up early if they'd have just called one, swipe away, because she used her physicality and kind of embellished and threw her hand down. But we've got to get our hands off. There's no question that, Deja Kelly drew 13 of the fouls, and most of them were not on penetrating dribbles. They were us being too tight, 28 feet from the basket. So that to me is not a hard fix. We didn't put them on the line fouling on jump shots. We didn't put them on the line fouling threes. We didn't foul badly at the rim. Those things I would have been more frustrated with, because they're harder to they're not harder to correct, but their intensity. Take the 2 technical. Look how many foul shots they took. 2 of them were technicals because we lost our cool. Which we can't do. And it's very out of character for Jada, everyone who knows Jada. But I think the frustration stemmed from, I get a foul for my hands on somebody. She'd been chucked in the face. Deja ran through a DHO the possession before. And it was like someone was on her back, and she just, she let her temper get a hold of her in that moment. And she can't do. She's got to be tough enough to not let that bother her, because she got an over the back call. The ball was ours. Now they get 2 technical fouls. You've got 1 more team foul. We inbound the ball. We hand check Deja, and they go to the line. So yeah, I think not just like all turnovers are not created equal. Not all fouls are created equal. And so I think we'll do a better job. But I think Deja won that matchup all night long.
Talked about the importance of getting the ball to Vonleh a whole lot more. Were you comfortable with Jada having 20 shots in that game?
No.
Okay.
But I think Jada made plays for our team. When we were struggling early, Jada went and made plays. What we need from Jada is to feel the moment. Like, she took a lot of good shots, and there are times when she needed the 2 3s she made were huge. Like, you ask, were they scheming? Like, early in the game, when Jada would give the ball up, Jada's defender stood on the backside of Nettie. Like, did not ever play Jada when she didn't have the ball. So it's important because Iowa State does that, and there are teams in our league that will do that. And so her getting confident and making that shot is really, really important. So I thought she took a lot of good shots. I thought she took about 4 really bad shots, where we didn't get into offense or she missed open people. There's going to be nights she needs to get 20 for us. Absolutely. But I didn't feel like she was surveying and finding her teammates a lot. And so there needs to be a balance in that. Like, she can go get 20 shots if that's what we need. But to only have 1 assist when you have the ball in your hands as much as she did, that's the bigger issue. Not necessarily the shot total, but the lack of balance. Like, she went from 10 assists and 2 shots in the last game to 20 shots and 1 assist, and we got to get a balance from her. But I thought that she got us back into the game with her aggressiveness on defense. I thought she got us back into a game because she wasn't afraid to go make a play and was making them. And so she needs to do what she does well, and what she does well is go downhill and score. So we do need her to do that. I just need her to find a balance of getting us into offense, and feeding the post with that.
At the tip-off luncheon, you commented on how meaningful it was to you that Jada had been texting you about she's going to do better, the team's going to do better. Is that unusual for her to be that concerned or that?
I think it's just a sign of maturation and growth. Also comfort, and I think she, making her a captain makes her even more accountable, makes her think that way. The one thing about Jada that I have never questioned from the day she stepped on campus is her commitment to doing things the right way. She's coachable. She wants. I always have to err on the side of not giving her too much, because when I give her too much, she wants so badly to do exactly what I want her to do that then it takes away from what she does so well. And so, we're constantly talking about staying aggressive, staying in attack mode, but getting us into action, naturally flowing, know who's out there with you, who needs a shot. Like, has Yaya just hit a 3? Can we get it back to her? It's elite point guards have a feel for the game and know when it's their time. They know when it's time to get their big a touch. They know when it's time, hey, Sarah just hit a 3. Let's run our stagger play for her and get her another one. That is without me having to do that for her. And now I've had to do that a lot here since I've been here and be the point guard at times and call plays. But that's what I'm always trying to coach her to do. So I think when she goes back and she watched the game, it's like she knew, like, as good as she was and as big as the moments, the plays she made, that there's a lot of room for growth. And so I appreciate that accountability. You guys have probably figured out I will never blame a player for a loss. I will never call out a player for a loss. You can ask me how they played, and I'm going to tell you the truth. But I believe in taking accountability. I'm the adult in the room, and when we don't play well, I need to get them to play better. It's always going to be my mentality, and I don't believe in throwing kids under the bus. I do not believe in doghouses. I do not believe in any of that stuff. I do appreciate kids who are willing to step up and say, I can be better. That's important to me. If I'm going to take accountability, if I'm going to have people's back, it's like them owning what they can be better at gives us a chance to be a really, really good team. Because when you blame other people, it's, when you live in the society that it's easier to blame other people than look in the mirror, you can always find somebody to blame. You can find an official. You can blame an assistant coach. You can blame me. You can blame, I didn't call the right play. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And I'm always going to tell him when maybe I made the wrong substitution. Maybe I could have called a different play, But I can tell you my intention why and what I did and why I did it. And so I just feel like that was just a maturation moment for her, I felt like.
Certainly with Jana going down, you're going to need a guard off the bench to kind of shoulder more of that load. Do you think that's Yaya? Do you think that's Wise? Or are you waiting for Aaliyah to get here? How does that responsibility, who's that going to fall on now that we're talking about blame?
Yeah, I think right away. I mean, I think it's Yaya. But I also think, when we get Bella back, we can shift down and we can play bigger on the wing. And so I don't think it's one person's responsibility. I think Wise has the furthest to go, just being the new kid on the block and playing with players that are seniors or have been in our system 3 years. She's got the biggest jump to make. Yaya's been here. She knows what the expectations are. She's capable of doing a lot of things. And so I think it's opportunity for her. But I also think, we're probably going to have to play Bugs at the 3 and go double big and play Kyla and Nettie together a little bit right now. I mean, at least for the next month until we get Aaliyah. So it's good to see Bugs is overflowing with confidence right now. And we're going to need that. We're going to need her to be confident on the perimeter, just like she always is, kind of in that trail spot where she's so effective.
Coach, I'm going to go a little bit to this weekend. It's alumni weekend. You do have, one of the best players in Baylor program history, and Sophia Young-Malcolm on your staff. But what do you all do as a staff to be able to connect today's players to the legacy of Baylor women's basketball?
Yeah, I mean, it's so often in this world, because of the nature of immediate information, it's out of sight, out of mind. I think that's, a player who played here 10 years ago, that's these kids were in elementary school, and it's just kind of not a part of their DNA to know all of that. I think for me, the alumni piece that's so important is I do think, even looking back at my career, how instrumental my college years were, the relationships I built, the coaches, the teammates, and unfortunately coaching in this business my whole adult life. I've never been able to go back for an alumni weekend or do anything like that. But I see a lot of Facebook posts about it. And I think it's a really, really cool opportunity for, for our alums in kind of each of their pods, the years that they were here. So often it's just a cool opportunity for them to reconnect. But it's also an opportunity for us to connect all the dots. I've always said, from the Bearettes Day to the Lady Bear Day to the Bears, it's I think that your alma mater is important to you, and then you add on top of that not just being a Baylor alum, but being a Baylor women's basketball alum. It's just a really special thing. And so trying to connect all those groups, and probably the older you get, the more you appreciate it. The players that are a couple years out of college aren't looking to come back yet, maybe for a game, but not for that experience. But I think the further you get away from it, the more you appreciate what it meant in your life, and how instrumental it was to your growth and personal growth, and ultimately then potentially professional growth. So I just think it's a really cool thing to bring them back and make them feel appreciated, and make them feel like they're always welcome, not just at Baylor, but now Foster and on this campus. All right, thanks.